Alright everyone, welcome back to another installment in our SOLIDWORKS tutorial video series. Today you guys are going to be designing tops, and as usual I have some examples to show you. So this is a design that I came up with a few days ago, but to be honest it was too much of a hassle to print, so I gave up on it. But I decided to show it to you guys anyway. Here we have the actual top itself, a holder that the spindle slips through, and a device that we can pull with our finger to initiate the rotating motion of the top. If we go over here, we can see a much simpler design that I came up with recently, and this is much closer to what you're actually going to be making in this session. So let's head over to our empty part file and try to make something similar to that. I'm already looking at my front plane, so I'll start a sketch. And the first thing I'm going to do is draw the circle that's at the top of the spindle. I'll hit OK and then dimension it accordingly. Let's give it a diameter of about 12 millimeters and hit OK. Next I'm going to use the normal spline tool to draw the shape of my spindle. So let's make sure it connects to that circle and just start freehanding it. Once you reach a certain point, I'm going to start bringing the spline out a lot more because we're entering the midsection of the body of this top. And now press escape. I'm satisfied with that shape for now. I'm going to select my spline tool yet again. And draw this contour going down towards the end of my object. And that should be good enough. And finally, I'll insert another circle at the bottom. Put its center point right here, draw it out, and then use our Smart Dimension tool to make it the same size as the circle at the top, so 12 millimeters. Then we can hit OK. Now of course when you're done all this, you can control the points on your splines or add more control points to edit the shape. Remember, like I always say, less is more, so if you can get a particular shape using the least amount of points possible, that's excellent. I'm going to use the line tool and insert a straight line between the top of this circle and the bottom of this circle. Hit escape. And now what we'll do is use this trim entities feature to get rid of some unwanted parts. We don't need this half of the circle. We don't need this half of that circle. We also don't need this part of the spline here or this part of the circle here. And we don't need this part of the circle here. So now we have a fully enclosed shape whose profile matches what half of our top would look like if you cut a section through it. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to show you a new tool. And this is a tool you should have learned about earlier actually. The revolved boss base tool. So it will take that enclosed shape and revolve it by whatever amount you want it to about a certain axis. So you have to choose an axis of revolution. For that, I'm just going to choose this line here. And so I want it to rotate 360 degrees, that's fine. I will hit OK. Look back at it from the front view, and now we have the basic shape of our spinning top. If you look at this example we have here, there are a few added features, some cuts and some extra revolved pieces. We're going to try to make something kind of like that so we can give our top a bit more character. So what I'll do is, I'll jump to the top plane and I'll start a sketch there. And I'll use some construction geometry to make my cuts. So I'll put a line here and another center line here. Hit escape. Next what I'll do is I'll dimension these. So I'll set the angle between here and this plane as, let's say, 25 degrees. And I will do the same thing here. I'll actually set it down to 20. I feel like that's better. So I'm going to change this one from 25 to 20. Sometimes you just have to go with what looks good. You can finish that up. Then what we can do is use the center point arc tool. So if you click on the arrow next to here, click center point arc. We're going to put the center point at the origin, and we're going to expand out to define the radius of this arc. I'm going to put it about here. And then next what we're doing is defining what section of the arc we'd like to keep. So that's not the section I wanted to keep, so I'm going to redo that. Make sure that you zoom in when you're doing these sort of tasks, or you'll make mistakes like me. Novice mistakes. Right, there we go. I'll keep that right there. And of course, as with any other shape or entity, you can control some parameters in this dialog over here. So that radius is currently set to 44. I think that's a bit too far out. Let's try 30. And that works pretty well. Then what I'll do is I'll draw another center point arc. Try to get it in line with the origin. Bring it out to the circumference of this top. Line it up with that construction geometry. And connect it to the other side like so. You can hit OK. And what I'll do is insert some lines here and here. So that we now have a fully enclosed shape. Then I'll go to my Features tab and use the Extruded Cut option. I'm just going to change it from blind to through all. And then hit OK. So that's how I made the initial cuts in the other top. I want to copy that cut around, so I will go to the pattern tool. Instead of selecting linear pattern, I'll select circular pattern. For direction, I'm just going to choose the outer edge of this revolve. And for features and faces that I want to copy, we will do cut extrude, so it selected that, and I'll reduce that from 12 to 4. Equal spacing, of course, and hit OK. So now I've successfully made all of my necessary cuts in the spinning top. Again, looking back at this example, I made some protrusions on the end of each of these edges so that the top will look more interesting and maybe perform better. We'll see. So to do that, I'm going to elect to sketch on one of these faces. So for now, I'm going to hide the primary planes. And before I select sketch, I'm going to press normal 2. That button will take me at an angle that's perpendicular to the surface. And I'll select sketch, and I will try to draw something interesting. So let's use this spline tool again. Use a style spline this time. And just make some random shape. Press escape. That's not the best. Let's try to move this a bit. In fact, I may have to delete that and try again. Style spline. Let's do that again. That's better. Hit escape. I want to make sure that this point is coincident with that edge, so I'll click that. You see that relationship already exists, so that's good. I'm going to insert a polygon actually. Let's try to be spontaneous. So I'm going to put the center point of this polygon right about, let's line up with this tip as well, so I'll roll that for a bit. Line it up like so, and then expand it like this. So that's a hexagon. I don't know if I want to go with a hexagon. We'll see how it looks. We can leave it as is and hit OK. Then we can add another spline that connects to that. So we can go with a regular spline in this case. Just start from somewhere within this polygon. and make sure that the endpoint of that spline is somewhat coincident with that edge. So I don't know what type of shape this is gonna end up looking like, but it's all about experimentation with this exercise. Again, I'm going to use the trim tool, very handy tool. Get rid of some unnecessary lines. And before I trim these lines here, I'm gonna add a line right here, just to make sure we don't get rid of any geometry you actually want to keep. So I'll just draw a straight line from here to here. And then hit OK. Now I'll continue using the trim tool and get rid of this and this. Now we can go back to our Features tab and use the same Revolved Boss Base tool. So this time I'm going to stick with the blind option. I'm going to flip the direction and I'm going to carry it to 60 degrees. You need to find axis of revolution. You don't want to revolve it around this line because, well, it's not going to turn out nice, let's just say that. So before we continue with this, we actually should have inserted some construction geometry in this sketch. So let's go back to our sketch tab, right click, select the center line, make sure it lines up with the origin, just draw it vertically. And that's good enough. Now let's go back to that Revolved Boss Base. I don't want it to be going around 360 degrees. I want it to try 60 degrees. So let's do that. Takes us a bit too far. If we type in 50 degrees, that's still not the greatest. Let's try 40. 40 is too small. You can choose a up to surface option and then just select that if you wanted it to be exact, and I think I'll leave it like that for now and hit OK. So that's the outer edge of our spinning top. It looks kind of weird. Maybe it'll be better once we pattern it around. I actually want it to have an overhang like how this has an overhang, so I'm going to change that from the up to surface option. So we'll go and edit feature. And we'll stick with blind, but this time we'll stick with 45-degree angle. Actually, that seems to be exactly on the surface. So let's do a 10-degree overhang. Let's set that to 55 degrees. And so for direction 2, I'm gonna have it come this way just 10 degrees. Uncheck the merge result because it'll make circular patterning easier. and then hit OK. And that looks a bit better actually. Now I'll go to our patterns menu, select circular pattern, and of course we'll check the bodies box this time. We're gonna pattern this body, this revolve, and for the direction you can choose several things. You can just choose this edge for instance, and keep the instances as 4, equal spacing, and then hit OK. Now if you want all of this to be one body, you can type in COMBINE in the search menu. If you press S and then go to that search bar, I'm going to use the combine option. So just click and drag your mouse over your entire top, select the add option and hit OK. So what that does is it combines everything that we made, all the patterns and all that stuff, into one body. And so we're pretty much finished with this. This one looks like a pretty funky top. One more feature that I have here in this example is a extruded cut near the bottom of the top, and that's basically to fit some marble or metal ball in case we needed to lower the center of gravity of our top. So let's just do that and complete this build. Going to show my planes once more, and for this purpose I will sketch on the front plane. Let's insert a circle. Now if you're doing this, you need to know the size of the item we're going to be using to fit into this hole. Right now this is pretty arbitrary. I'm going to give it a dimension of 8 millimeters. Hit OK. Go to features and then use the extruded cut. I'm going to select the through all option, not through all both, but just through all. And then select OK. So now what we have is an extruded cut that we could potentially fit some fit some weight into to lower the center of gravity of the spinning top if need be. So that's all there is to it. This one is pretty simple compared to other exercises, so I hope to see some interesting designs from all of you. And until next time, see you later.